Good morning, beautiful woman. I wanted to jump on live today to talk to you about what it looks like when you really hold yourself in life. And I know this is something that I hear many of us, especially women in this world, struggle with, to find the time, the capacity, and the way to feel held, to feel seen. But today we're going to touch on feeling held and to feel really held and nurtured in your own life. And there's this big movement I feel around looking outside ourselves to being held. We look at other structures, other resources, other people even, and there might even be a resentment or a feeling resentment that builds up because we don't feel like the world around us is holding us enough, because we feel so overwhelmed and overextended as mothers, as daughters, as sisters, or even women in the workplace, where you feel you're constantly giving and giving and giving and giving some more, and not really getting back the nurturing that you need within your own system, within your own nervous system, to feel really anchored and grounded and whole and nourished from within yourself. And I know it can be very tempting, and I know I did this for myself for a long time as well, to look outside for techniques and structures and supports to bolster you up. And often we look to our partners, we may even look to our children if our partners do not step up to give us that validation and that connection that we're looking for. But ultimately that connection and that validation, that feeling of being held, is something that we need to create from within ourselves. Now, an example I want to give you here is imagine you've come down with a cold or a flu. Now, I don't know what it's like for you, but I know, especially in the past, my easy go-to would be is creating, you need to eat something, you need to nourish yourself in some way. But it's so much easier sometimes to just grab for that quick, easy, instant meal, the cheese on toast, maybe a pre-made meal. And there's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes you just need to do what you need to do for yourself. So there's no judgment or criticism here. It's just awareness. But what I learned recently is an example of where you're getting sick and you want to reach to that sort of that quick energy hit. You may even reach to chocolate or biscuits or anything that is going to give you a quick energy hit, rather than maybe taking the time to create and make yourself a really nice, nourishing pot of chicken bone broth soup, or whatever it is that you find nourishing. You may have special dietary preferences here. Something that will really nourish, hold, and support you. Now, the difference is that we reach for that quick fix. It gives you a quick energy hit, and it gives you that dopamine rush, that sense of validation. However, it doesn't actually anchor and ground you in your body and nourish you, whereas the well thought out pot of soup with all the ingredients, with all the veggies and the bone broth and anything that you feel it nourishes and supports your body, will actually help anchor and ground you, and will make you feel like you're receiving a hug from the inside. And like I said, often it's easy to reach for that quick fix, right? We reach for meditation hoping it will ease our anxiety or our stress, and we might spend a lot of time meditating, not necessarily taking the time to really honor what we're feeling and thinking in the moment, because it might be a form of an escape. And those quick fixes is often a form of escape because we don't actually want to feel what is really, really going on for ourselves. However, if we want to really hold ourselves, we have to be willing to sink into those feelings and let all those feelings have a place to live. Now, the reason I use the chicken soup as an example is I actually came down with a cold just last week. And I found myself in a situation where I had to make a decision. I didn't have my children for a weekend, and I didn't feel like cooking. because when you're feeling a bit cold and fluey, you don't really feel like doing much. But I actually stepped back for a moment, because it would have been very tempting to just to go and buy some pre-made soups, maybe some toast. But I took that step back and went, what does my body actually really need right now to move through this? Now, I look at something like a cold and flu as a bit of a portal where you move from one timeline in your life to another timeline. And the more you can support yourself and hold yourself in that space, the faster you will move through that, the faster your body will clear and the energy will lift, and you will come out the other side almost as a new person. So like I said, it would have been easy to grab for quick fixes. And there were a couple of quick fixes too. But I sank into my body, and I very clearly heard it say that it wanted this chicken soup with bone broth, because it was nourishing, grounding and warming, and it had some very specific ingredients. I actually created my own recipe on the spot from it. And that's what I did. When I dropped my boys off, I went to the shop and I got all the additional ingredients that I needed to create this pot of soup. I made a big pot of soup because the idea was also for it to be quick and easy over the weekend, so I didn't have to create more meals and spend time cooking, because that's not what was going to serve me. That is what was driving that need to have those instant meals in the first place, to have something that's quick and easy. But this way I got quick and easy and nourishing. Now, what happened with this pot of soup was, it was like a hug from the inside, because I actually listened to my body and I gave it exactly what it asked for, because I trusted it. I trusted my own wisdom and I honored it. And in that moment, I felt the most held I have ever felt by myself, because I'd honored myself. I honored my own needs and I honored my own wants. And that is what holding yourself looks like. Now, this may seem like a simple example. However, the reality is, sometimes it's in these little things where the big changes and transformations happen. So in these moments where you want to reach out for these quick fixes because you're trying to get away from something that doesn't feel good, you just want to, it's almost like you want to go into space where you kind of feel a bit sorry for yourself. And like, who here has ever felt sorry for themselves when they feel sick? I know I have. I think we all do it to a certain extent. And often in that space, you drop everything that nourish and support you, right? Because you go into that space of, I don't have energy, I don't have the patience, I just don't have the oomph in me today to do any of this. Yet when we can maintain at least an aspect of our lives where we go, okay, how can I lean more into me in this space, rather than letting it all go, because the invitation is to collapse into your old self, into that victim space, poor me space, the person who doesn't have it, the person who is feeling hard done by. You will actually notice assertive emotions come up. Now, they may be different for each one of you, right? I noticed in this space, when I was on my first day, going down, going, ooh, I'm going to do the soup, and then I'm just going to notice what comes up. And I'm not going to make it wrong. Everything has space. Everything gets accepted and loved and treated with reverence. And I notice all these feelings bubble up. There's some old grief coming up. And there was like an anger and a resentment feeling coming up through my body. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And I just acknowledged it, and I allowed it to be. I didn't try and push it under. And because I wasn't going for those quick fixes, which is often when we go for those quick fixes, is trying to mask something that we're feeling, because it's a quick hit, especially like the sugary, high fatty things, is to try and mask a feeling that we have. But because I didn't allow myself to go into that space, I just allowed myself to be held. I could actually feel these feelings come up and be with them and acknowledge them. Now, I'm not saying sit and dwell in them and, camp out there and live in those feelings. It's about acknowledging them, seeing them, saying, I see you, I hear you, acknowledge you. You have space here in my life also. So that's how you hold yourself in that space where you have something coming up. Now, I use a cold and flu as an example, right? But there may be very different experiences where you're going through that kind of transformation and transition in your life. It could be a relationship breakup. How often, if you know anything like me, do you stop eating? Perhaps. Or do you also go for junk food because you just don't have it in you to really look after yourself? Do you stop going for walks? Do you stop exercising? Do you drop your meditation practices even, you know? And it's in those moments, just even if you can't maintain your same level of nourishment and nurturing that you always do for yourself, it's finding just that one thing where you go, I'm just going to drop into my body, I'm going to close my eyes, I'm going to drop into my body, and I'm going to ask myself, what do I need most right now? And then doing that one thing, even if it is a push. Now, making a pot of soup was a bit of a push, but it only took about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, right? And then it was done for a weekend, and it served me really well for the rest of the weekend. But I found also, because I then honored that call from my body, suddenly the symptoms started lifting really quickly, and my energy started recalibrating and bringing me back into alignment and balance really quickly, because I had held myself. So I then found energy to do the other things I had wanted to, or some of them over the weekend as well, because suddenly everything cleared out much faster, because I wasn't fighting it, and I wasn't suppressing it, and I wasn't pushing it down. And this is the thing, that when you don't push things down and you don't suppress it, you actually get to hold yourself emotionally. Now, I know that sometimes when we're in that space, we really want other people to show up for us. We want other people to check in on us. We may want them to make us a pot and soup and bring it to us, to call us, ask us how we are, maybe bring us breakfast in bed or make us a cup of tea. We want to outsource that, and that also, there's nothing wrong with that, because when you're in a space where someone is doing that or not doing it, it actually shows you where you are in your receiving channels and what you're open to receiving or not receiving. How much support are you receiving? Now, if you notice that you're not quite getting the support from those around you, then it may well be that your receiving channel is feeling a bit blocked. And one of the biggest ways, or easiest ways, or best ways to unlock your receiving channel is to learn to hold yourself, because it actually starts with you, because it resets your nervous system from the inside out. And as your nervous system relaxes, it will start opening up to being able to hold more, to receive more. And then that's when you will start seeing it reflected back to you in the world around you. So use everything that comes in as feedback. Now, for me, using this example, I use it as a twofold example, because there was this weekend I actually heard from no one. I briefly had contact with one friend a couple of days later, but I heard from absolutely no one. No one knew I had a cold, except two of my coaches, because it came up in the call. I mentioned to them, this is where I was at in the calls. But it wasn't in a I need your validation or attention seeking kind of way. It was just, this is how it is, because I was having the calls. Because I had held myself, I was able to attend the calls in the first place. But no one else. I didn't hear from anybody else. Like I said, except one friend who reached out to check something a bit later on in the weekend, which was not around this. And I know that when in the past I may have felt a bit slighted, going, oh, nobody's reached out, nobody loves me, everybody's forgotten about me, poor me, all must hate me, they must not be worthy or deserving enough, because nobody's checking in on me, nobody's actually gone, hey, where'd Vida go? She's gone really quiet, what's happened? she's still alive. There was none of that. For possibly one of the first times ever where I felt sick, there was no need to actually even message a friend and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, because I didn't feel I needed the external validation or attention, because I recognized that in this moment when my world was collapsing, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with receiving or asking for support if you need it, to be very clear about that, if you need support and guidance, you ask for it if you need it. But I also recognize that there's value that as you learn to hold more of yourself, you find more of that support within yourself, and you start recognize these moments as opportunities to go deeper and expand more and grow and hold more and receive more in your life, whatever your circumstances may be, if you're willing to do this. Now, I initially needed help and support with being able to support myself through these moments to be able to hold more. I had to do the work around my nervous system to be able to hold more, because there were times that I, especially in the past, where I deeply collapsed into my old stories and patterns around this. So it's taken a little bit of work, I'm not going to lie about that, but it's knowing that this is there for you as you expand into resetting your nervous system and calming your center and opening your receiving channels. And as you learn to hold more, your reliance on other people to validate your worth and value and how lovable you are, it starts diminishing. And you can start seeing that when life throws you a curveball, it's actually a portal and an opportunity to go deeper and expand more so that you can receive more. And the way I look at it is that these experiences, it's like I mentioned, a portal. You're going from one timeline to another timeline. And when you allow yourself to flow with it and hold yourself in it, or learn to hold yourself better each time it comes along, that process feels less, as if it has got less friction. The two timelines don't collide as strongly with each other, because you're not fighting it and you're not trying to dim it down. You're actually allowing everything that you're feeling is valid to flow through you. You might want to have a cry, you may want to beat up a pillow, whatever, honor what you're feeling, allow it to be there without trying to dim it and without trying to have someone else validate it or to reach out to someone or something that is just going to ease the pressure a little bit. Now, if you're new to this and you're only just starting, I do actually recommend getting some support, and that's what I do with my work. Is I do support women with this so that they learn to do this for themselves, to hold themselves better, because we all have to start somewhere, right? And I can't say that I did my journey all by myself. I had to learn the tools and techniques to do this. And part of this is how you show up for yourself and not measuring your journey against somebody else's. You just do you and come back to, what do I need most right now? And what you need, maybe I actually need to reach out to someone for support because this is what I need, or I need to learn how to do this, so I'm going to reach out and ask, how do I do this? But what I'm talking about is, as you do this more and more for yourself, as quick fixes, because I know I used to do it sometimes. I feel really like a sense of discomfort, anxiety coming up in my body. I want to ring a friend just to relieve that pressure, just quickly and easily, just to avoid it a little bit, instead of just being with it and going, okay, what is the message it's bringing? And what do I actually need in this moment? What can I do and give to myself to hold myself better? Even if it's just a tiny little thing, a tiny little step. Because again, I'm going to say, don't compare yourself to anybody else. You are where you're at, and we're all in different places. And some people may be, for lack of a better word, further along than what you feel you are, but you just are where you are. But my question today is, what are you doing? What can you do today to hold yourself? What do you need for yourself today that will make you feel just a little bit more centered, balanced, and calmer within yourself? Something that you can do for you. Is it make a cup of tea? Is it a specific kind of tea? It might be lemon and ginger tea. And maybe that you feel you need to talk to a friend, not to vent about your problems, but just to connect, for connection and social interaction. Maybe it is you need to eat an apple. Or maybe it is not beating yourself up about the chocolate biscuit you had yesterday. Where can you have that compassion, kindness and patience with yourself? Going, I can see my limitation here, or I feel like I have a limitation. But I can also see that if I just allow it to be without trying to push against it or try and force it away, how can I work with it in this moment to anchor and ground myself deeply, more deeply into myself, into honoring me? And it's in that process where you start unlocking your energy, it's even your feminine energy, if you want to go down that path, but your receiving channels. Because the more you are able to hold within yourself without fighting the duality of life, because there's always that duality, the more your receiving channel will open, the more you will start receiving, and you'll start seeing a shift in your connections in the world around you. And maybe it will take a little bit more time. Some people may see overnight shifts, some people may see slower movement, but it's knowing and trusting yourself that you've got you. That no matter what, you've got yourself. Because that is really where it begins. When you learn to hold yourself, your energy will hold you and it will support you, and you will face absolutely everything your life might bring your way. Both happy and sad, and it will bring you everything you need to move forward no matter what, and to find the opportunities in all those moments. Now, I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please drop it in the comments below and I will answer them, come back with an intuitive message around it for you, or some guidance or some support in some way. And I hope you have a beautiful day.